What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video on the Z. And before we dive into this thing and see what kind of damage I did at the track, I want to show you guys something pretty cool. New sticker drop for you guys. This is celebrating V1 of the car. You can tell it's kind of a cool holographic print there. They're on the smaller side. It's about 3 inches across and maybe 2 inches tall, but I thought it was pretty cool. And since the V1 of this car won't live on forever, I wanted something to remember it by, so just thought that was a cool idea. There is a really limited number of those. I didn't order a lot since this car is not going to look this way for long. I didn't want a million of those stickers laying around. So if you do want one, reach out to me on Instagram. My name's the same as it is on YouTube, Tony Crispin. Send me a DM and I'll get you one sent out. Anyways, let's dive into this thing and see just how bad is the damage from that little crash. If you're watching this and wondering what is he talking about, he crashed that thing, check out the last video where I was at Apple Valley Speedway and got into a little fender bender with someone. I will put it right up here. All right, let's get this thing up on jack stands, take that wheel off, and get a good look at some of the suspension that I messed up and see about straightening this fender out. All right, so looking at the front of this car, it's not that bad. I haven't jumped into the suspension yet. If you saw the end of the last video, you know I messed up a compression arm, I think is what it's called. Shouldn't be that big of a fix. But right now I'm just starting off looking at the cosmetic damage. I think the easiest way to get this thing looking a bit better is just to pull the fender off and try and straighten it out because it's pretty tweaked in a few different areas and it might be hard to do on the car. Now, initially I was just going to kind of hammer some things flat, throw a new headlight in it and call it a day because I was supposed to be driving this Sunday at Irwindale Speedway. That would have been the 22nd. And a few videos back, I think I went over my schedule and that was definitely on it. But since then, that event has been canceled. Apologize to any of you guys who were looking forward to that. I guess the track themselves, Irwindale, just said no to the whole drifting. The event itself is still going on. It's still a big car show and stuff, but I don't know why they just canceled the drifting portion. So I enjoyed drifting Irwindale last time, and I was looking forward to doing it again. But out of my hands. On the plus side, though, that does give me a bit more time to get this thing not only looking as best as possible, but also driving as best as possible. It does need a few other maintenance things, and now I have quite a bit more time before drift week to get it all dialed in. So I figured with that extra time, I might as well pull the fender off and try and straighten this thing out. Let me show you guys some of the damage before I yank this thing off. So obviously it's a little wavy around the sides, which I should be able to get out with the fender roller. But the worst of the damage is this like weird little kink here, and then you can actually see right here, it got like pushed out that way. So I'm thinking if I can pull it off the car and kind of hammer this part flat back up and down, it should help. And it actually pushed up onto the pillar here. You can see where it scratched the wrap. It was pushed up a bit higher. I kind of just pushed it down, but that's why the gap on the door is way off now. So should be able to straighten quite a bit of that out. It's not like those fenders were perfect to begin with. So again, I'm not looking for perfection, but I know I can get it a bit better than it is now. This is definitely part of the problem here. You can see the fender actually pulled completely out of where that bolt is. Just loosening that up and pushing it back down into its spot should definitely help. But I think I'm still going to take it off and try to fine tune this top area because I know that will be a lot easier to fix off the car. All right, getting a better look at some stuff in here. Now, for those that don't know, this car is a salvage title. It got hit in this corner, same corner that I crashed, funny enough. If you've been on the channel for a long time, you know that I fixed some issues on the very front of the frame rail and dealt with some like cracks on the core support and some other stuff, but I never really looked at this. Not sure what happened there or how they tried to fix it, but it looks kind of terrible. I'm just going to ignore it. Let's be honest, I'm sure that corner is going to get hit again. As far as the car goes, it looks completely fine. I just have to straighten out that fender. I think what the hardest thing is going to be is straightening out this headlight bracket so I can get a headlight to actually sit in there and fit well with the fender. But let's get the fender fixed first. That way I can get that on a car and have a reference point to where the headlight's actually going to sit. Look at that gap. I think it's better than it was. Even the hood gap is pretty even. This is still dented, but it's better than it was. Now onto the headlight bracket. All right, happy with the fender. Next, I got to get this headlight bracket sorted, but first I'm going to try to get this bash bar bent back out. You can see how it kind of flares out on that side. This side it bent in from the crash. Again, if you missed the video, this thing held up really well. I'm super happy with that. All my welds held up perfectly. No bends or deformations other than this spot, which is exactly what I expected it to do considering where it took the hit. So great job, me. Broken breaker bar, half of a jack handle. Let's see if we can straighten this out. Definitely not perfect. It actually started to bend in the middle there. You can see it has a little bow to it now, but it's better than it was. Ready to take another hit. After some gentle massaging with a mini sledgehammer, I think the bracket is close enough that I can at least throw a headlight in and see if we are going to be able to salvage that thing or if I'm going to have to end up getting a whole new bracket altogether. So let's open up these new headlights. If you need headlights for your Z, I'm going to put the link down below. I did get these headlights from Amazon, and like I have mentioned in the past, anything I share with you guys that I got off Amazon will be through my affiliates link, and it helps me out tremendously if you guys buy anything through those links. So if you've got a 350Z with some crusty old headlights, I would definitely recommend picking these up. They are under $200. They look fantastic, and they work really well too. You do have to adjust the headlights a little bit. When I got mine, they were like pointed at the ground, but it's super easy. It's just a little 10mm bolt. You turn it, raises or lowers the beam. Also, it should be noted that these are non-HIDs, so if you have an HID Model Z, like mine was, you have to get a little jumper harness that converts the pin out on the plug. Really cheap little conversion. Again, I got that on Amazon as well, so I will throw that link down below too. Enough talking, let's throw this headlight in and see if it fits. All right, it's taken a bit longer than I thought to get this headlight in, and it's still not perfect, but we are moving in the right direction. Let me show you guys where we're at. Let me shine a bit extra light in there for you. So we got the headlight in. You can see it actually lines up decently with the fender. I haven't cleaned off any of those scratches or anything yet, but it looks pretty good. The damage at the top of the fender is still there, but it's definitely better looking than it was. The hood is another issue. You can see it's hitting the headlight there just from where it's kind of dented. And the bottom of the headlight is something I'm going to have to fix. So you can see there's two mounting holes, one there and one there. And they're pretty far off just because of how bent the headlight bracket is. So I'm going to try to bend that up. Probably this one. I'm thinking I'll just put a jack under it and get it up in the right spot because I definitely need some kind of mount down at the bottom. But other than that, we're moving along. I think it looks pretty good. Happy with the progress so far. Like I said, I'm going to try to get that headlight bracket straightened out a bit more just so I can at least get one bolt underneath the headlight there. And then I think the headlight will be mounted solid enough that I won't have to worry about it. As you can see, we got one bolt in there. Next step's just going to be fixing this hood. That kind of shows you just how bent it is. Trying to straighten the hood out now. I'm kind of bummed that this happened on the corner of the hood that has body filler on it. The other side does not. It's literally just in this little corner here. And because of that, it's starting to crack. You can see right there. And then obviously where it actually got hit, there's little spots of filler that's cracking. So kind of a bummer, but whatever. I'm just trying to straighten it out so I can actually get it to close without smashing into this headlight here. But hey, the car looks a lot less crashed now. So I got the hood to close, but it doesn't look great. You can see it dips really far down in that corner, I think just because the fender got messed up there. And then it actually like overlaps the headlight here. Not sure if that's a headlight issue or a hood issue, but we definitely have some fine tuning to do. Overall though, it's come a long ways in a short time. Pretty happy with how it's turning out. All right, I think I'm gonna call that good for the night. I got the hood a whole lot better. It's still not perfect, but I don't think it's going to get perfect. It lines up with the headlight a lot better now. And that spot in the fender's not getting fixed, but overall it looks a lot better. And from here, you really can't tell. Really happy with the way the front of the car is coming back together. Getting that fender straightened out and the new headlight on really did a lot, and I'm happy I was able to save the hood. It was a bit more bent than I thought, so I'm glad it's gonna work for now. Down the road, I'll probably get a new hood, but for now this will work just fine because we all know it's probably going to get hit again, especially on drift week. One last thing before I call it a night, I am going to clean up the bumper, so I'm going to throw you guys on a quick time lapse and show you what I did there. Bumper cleaned up pretty good. I am really surprised at how well the wrap held up. There's definitely some spots that need some love, And we'll end up touching the bumper up as well as the fender and maybe a few other little things here and there before Drift Week comes, because I definitely want this thing looking fresh. I'm gonna call it a night here. I will pick back up with you guys in just a few so we can get the suspension sorted out. And we're back. Let's dive into the suspension so we can get this thing back on the ground, rolling and ready to rip. Well, I didn't realize I have to take out the whole like subframe brace thing to get the compression arm out. So it's gonna be a bit bigger of a job than I thought. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about in case you're doing this too. So we can see where the compression arm bolts right here. And it's actually a stud that comes off the frame rail through the control arm and right here. So this whole brace runs that way across the car that way, has to come out, and then the arm will drop down. So like I said, a bit bigger of a job than I expected, but shouldn't be too bad. That's never a good sign. So I've been working at trying to get this under brace off, and 3 of the 8 bolts have the heads rounded off. Once I got under there and started taking it off, I realized that I tried to do this job a really long time ago when I first got this thing together, because I wanted to replace the steering rack bushings, and once I found out that 1 or 2 of the bolts was rounded off, I just said, nah, not gonna worry about it. But now I need to get in there, so I bought a little bolt extractor set from a hardware store, and fingers crossed it works, otherwise this is gonna be a real pain. So if you've never used one of these before, pretty simple. You just hammer this on the bolt that is rounded off, and you can see they're like spiral fluted in there. So as you tighten it, the little like ears of that kind of catch on the bolt. At least that's the theory. So I'm gonna hammer this on one of the bolts and see if we have any luck. All right, so you can see this bolt right here has been pretty well rounded off. So we're gonna try this guy here. Set him on there and kind of tap this on. And then hope for the best. It worked! Success. Really happy that that worked. Now I just have to do it 2 more times and we can get this brace out of the way. This is me telling you to buy one of these bolt extractor sets, because that was a lifesaver. It took maybe 5 minutes to get those 3 rounded bolts off, and it was no big deal. This is just a cheap Cobalt set. I think it was $15 at Lowe's. It was the only thing I could find that was in stock locally, because I'm trying to get this done today. I don't have an Amazon affiliate links or anything like that, but hey, if you're local to Lowe's, go pick that thing up. For 15 bucks, it is an absolute lifesaver. It's only 5 pieces, but it kind of covers the common sizes. It says it covers metric and standard, but really there's not a lot of metric in it. You got 10, 11, 13, 14, and 16. So really only the 10 and 14 kind of matter if you're dealing with typical Japanese cars. But hey, for 15 bucks, it's really hard to beat, and it really saved my life on this one, because it would have been such a pain to try to get these out any other way. Enough talking. Let's get this messed up old compression arm out so we can get this thing back together. Success! A better look at the issue we had here. So this is the taper of the ball joint that sits in the spindle. Obviously that's the ball joint itself. If you look closely, you can see it snapped off in there. So this guy broke right where the ball joint's at. Very weird. Never seen one snap like that, but whatever. We'll get a new one of these thrown in and we'll be back in business. New compression arms ready to go in. Now, while the driver's side one doesn't need to be replaced, I figured might as well replace it, because this may end up happening again down the road, and I don't want that happening on Drift Week. So I'll have new compression arms, and if you remember, I replaced the lower control arms not that long ago too, so most of the front suspension will be all refreshed. Should be good to go on Drift Week. All right, so we got the new compression arms in. I was able to get those lock stops cut down. I didn't really measure anything. I kind of just cut them in half and figured it would work. So it will take some testing. I may have to trim them back a little bit more. The good thing is if I ended up cutting too much off, you can actually just unthread them, and I still have the ones from the factory arms, so I can always swap them out if I cut a little bit too much off, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. There you can see that shiny new suspension arm and that cut lock stop there. Should be all good to go. Just got to throw this brace back on, and for that I did get some new hardware. Definitely didn't want to risk using that old rounded off hardware, so went to the local hardware store, picked up some grade 10 bolts. Gonna slap this in there now, and then we should be good to go. All right, suspension's all back together. Everything looks good. Last thing I'm gonna do to try to finish fixing the damage I caused is to try and even out this fender. I'm gonna put the fender roller on and see if I can get some of these waves out. That spot specifically is the worst. You can see how it kind of dips in there. I'm thinking I can fix that with the roller, at least make it look a little bit better. Taking the Z out for a quick spin now just to make sure everything's good. Looks like I could definitely use an alignment. I don't recall my wheel being that offset before. I mean, like, this is straight now. Something's a little off there. To be expected though, considering how much the suspension we had apart. An alignment's not really a big deal. And so far the drivability seems fine. It's not like it's pulling one way or another, so I think we're good. Other than fine tuning the alignment, I think we're good. Let's take a look at this thing. It barely even looks like I crashed it. Well, as you saw, I took this thing out for a drive. Drove great, zero issues. The alignment was a little off, but it actually drove perfectly fine. I wouldn't have known if I didn't realize the steering wheel was so far to the side. Drove around town, put a few miles on it, did a skid or two, came back home, did a little U-turn right in front of my house, and as soon as I finished the U-turn, the same compression arm failed. I just felt a hard clunk, and then now I could move that wheel back and forth exactly how I could at the track. So there's got to be some issue other than just the arm itself. I'm wondering if the car has too much angle now or something changed. Honestly, it doesn't even make sense because I've been running the same setup since day one and have never had an issue. And now that it happened once, for it to happen again right off the rip is really weird. So anyways, that's going to be an end to this video. That's something I'm going to have to dive into at a later time because just putting it back together kind of took the whole day. So check back for the next one where hopefully I figure this out. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll check you in the next one.